the sex book, just because no career retrospective would be truly complete without these. I mean, these were crucial. They're kind of probably my best. So this is the episode where I cockblock Ed Sanders. See, look, I didn't even know who Ed Sanders was. I mean, I did, but like to be honest, I was not a fan of Ed Sanders when I cockblocked him and ran into him. This was 2016. So this was 7 years ago. So it's just, I mean, it's hard to believe. This feels, it was one of those things when it happened. It felt like the newest thing that was ever gonna happen. Like it just felt like, my whole time in New York has felt a little bit like imposter syndrome, or like I'm not really at the party or something. Like I'm still this kind of outsider that's like trying to get in. I don't know Ed Sanders. I'm like this guy. I just go to this thing at Howell Happening. I meet this girl from fucking. One thing about New York is there's all these like visiting kind of like scholar or whatever, poetry groupie types. They come because they are friends with Ed Sanders, or they're going to talk to some kind of like beat relic, Gerard Malanga. They come to New York to interview people for conferences, whatever. This was like a celebration of Allen Ginsberg. I forget exactly. I think it was his birthday. This was at Bowery Electric, where, of course, I played a couple times. I played solo, the same stage that fucking the Fugs played. Here they are doing their fucking William Blake thing. Why is it being so choppy? At this point, I was not really using the beats as an example or something to follow, really. You know, I don't know why I went to this. I went to this, I guess, because of the reenactment of the Six Gallery reading, but in any case, it's, like everything, it turned into just like I met this girl and she was married. She knew Jethro Tull. This was the woman who knew Jethro Tull. Whoever the fuck that guy is, Ian Anderson or whatever, the guy with the flute. He's not actually Jethro Tull. It's not his real name. But she's like a Blake scholar. So like Ed Sanders is super into Blake, and so is a guy from Jethro Tull. So she was in New York to But this, it's weird because I remember seeing this when I was a kid. This belief in technique for modern prose, and they had it painted on the wall at How Happening, and it was crazy because I probably hadn't looked at it. Maybe I looked at it in college, but I hadn't probably looked at this since high school. I have the portable beat reader, and it's in there, and so I had definitely seen it. And it's a list, so it's kind of easy to read, and it just blew me away how much this resonated with what I was doing. It felt like he was describing scenes from a life and everything that I was trying to do and wanted to do with. Look at my beard. Once again, this is an example of I wanted to embrace different looks. Here I've got a little bit of facial hair, so it kind of gives it a different kind of timestamp. But yeah, those techniques for modern prose really felt like holy shit. The word, make the word movie of your life or whatever the fuck it is. Vague hypothesis. Behind my back, the night sky is something we're wearing, a cape or ink. Sinking in, I raw you, Walter de la Mare, whose name is his address. But hey, at least we got our receipt concept figured out. I don't really observe the human condition so much as look at hot chicks. When it comes to life, I'm down for whatever. So this is Pull My Daisy, which they were showing at this Allen Ginsberg festival, and I had never seen. I'd never really even heard of it, I don't think. And it's weird, It's just like the little notebooks. It felt like those were just like those Mead notebooks I was using. So it's just weird. I mean, I guess that's obvious that so many things trace back to the beat thing because they were such innovators and such a force. They were sort of like the American Romantics. Potter's Field. The road to God is paved with hell. You are well on your way. The decapitated forest, the amputated backyards. Dramatist Sourcebook 1985, Poets Marketplace 1984. All the books off mom's shelf tumbled down on dad's head. I don't ever want to live in reality again. The stares incapable of generosity, the squawk of the grackle too terrible. My flesh exuded marble, but I was blood and nerve as anybody. I preferred failure, its nobility. I needed stumbling tongues and misshapen ears, naivete and hearts of equal resentment. In a world made blemishless, ugliness becomes style. Were his mornings smog and glittering with winter bird song, snow stinking with light? The city was a ghost and fog the day after I met you and never saw you again. Brooklyn walked single file into the generous meal of the prairie, the blonde plate of Iowa. What is life but a road trip? To be a failure and to die. Right, what the hell else we got going on here? Let's try this one. What is life but a road trip? Oh God, should I read the Tinder poem? Tinder. I can't get your tight pussy off my mind. The majesty of Manhattan panoramaed around us. Chrysler billing in its tiara, blatant phallus of Empire State, king and queen on chessboard, New York City. I'm using the techniques I learned online, the come hither movement that will hit your G spot, causing uncontrollable orgasms, nothing spiritual about it. I press the button on the inside of your vagina that makes the cum come, the pad of my middle finger, firm yet soft, against the pillowed wall. I met you with the conversations I learned from the pickup artist routine manual. I say the jokes, I say the anecdotes, I say the magic tricks. Laughter is shaped by your mouth, smiles fall out of your jaw. I hate these things I am saying, I would never say them. But they are working. Why are they working? We are having sex. We are having relationship. Early autumn. First time all year we can see our breath. You are fat and flowing, and I fuck you harder than I've ever fucked anyone. I fuck you so hard I learned something about myself. I fuck you so hard you ask me to stay and actually mean it. We had an agreement. We'd rent each other's bodies, trick ourselves we weren't lonely, that somebody wanted us. It was a way to make ourselves new, if only to each other. We were all makeshift, a stopgap sealing the great breach of empty black night, coughing stars all over us like tuberculosis. Your disclaimer stated you were a divorce lawyer, minor caveat. Here was your closing argument. You should stay, you said, your voice hitting pouty bottom notes that you'd never use in a court of law, the ones you used to throw at Dad. But the jail cell of your pussy is no longer around me. And besides, I hardly know you. We only fucked twice, and you're exactly the kind of girl I like. Petite, linguistic, half Sioux. I'm gonna go, I say, like a real man. I get up from your bed feeling like a real man. And the words hit you naked in your sheets like a good spank. Within 3 minutes, I'm back on the wide open street, the clarifying air empty all around me. When I wrote that poem, I thought I went too far. And I really pulled back. This was when I started smoking weed kind of big time. And this was like March, I think, or sometime around that time. Fall. It was around fall 2014. It was around the Scenes from a Life, the beginning of that. Is this still going? What's going on? Did it start over or something? I feel like it started over. This was the beginning of my payodal. Have we gotten this far yet? I don't think we were actually this far. We were like kind of like, had we gotten this far? Had we watched all this yet? I'm not sure. I feel like we were maybe somewhere in here. But I shouldn't have gotten scared. I should have just kept going. That poem, it was a breakthrough. It's still good. There's something about it. I felt it was so sleazy that it was like sort of irredeemable. Platonic synonym. Platonic synonym. Guy rides by with his own radio station attached, calling me, moi, je, yo, together. I am what I am. How far is getting ahead of yourself? I've got 2 autobiographies running at once. I need less content in my content. Peaches like vortex, propane and propane accessories. Now is not the time to get back to orchestral kesterlings. Watch your final on the transportation bench as I'm in love with you for 5 seconds. Did we watch this already? I don't know. Maybe I'll skip to a different. I'd like to go back. Let me go back to this one. This would be a good visual for the sex poems, because this is like a sex episode. This was the one I used to send, like, as an example to people of, like, what it was. You want what you want, just take it. Every winter I think, Jesus, it does this again. Going through flower withdrawal, it's goodbye season. Such a symptom of balmy autumn, but preserving the legend requires death. Life needs an Apple Z command, but can do without autocorrect, as deformity is the greatest variety of beauty. Each moment we are creating future nostalgias, a remembrance of things past. Coming out of the storage unit bathroom, you're unsure if washing your hands will make them cleaner or more dirty. That's probably what memory looks like, just containers inside containers. Awe is coming off her hand in waves of soft heat. We go to a comedy show where our cheeks hurt from pretending to laugh, even though we thought it was actually funny. I remember everything. The elbow of the train ride, her ropey white blouse, the cherry rolling paper flaking in the breeze. Nice day, we said, as the train arrived in the station. My dark years of fucking. You were a movable desire, exactly whatever, when I closed my eyes. Sex occurred. My dark years of fucking, they were good. Trying to be young Bukowski, TV's Hank Moody. The cliche breathed to life, writing in spiral-bound notebooks with a pen stolen from the bank. Ladies' 80s at Scully's was home field. I could usually get a makeout on the candy-colored dance floor. Same playlist every Thursday night. 9 Inch Nails, New Order, 99 Luff balloons. I plied my trade, putting out the vibe, trying to shimmy onto the high golden plane with my 3 or 4 dance moves. I found Courtney in a blue dress, pretended I smoked so I could go to the patio to get to know her. I forgot when remembering, is it every detail that's interesting or just the ones you can't? She bit me hard enough to draw blood as we wrestled each other home through the park. An assistant in open heart surgery, she told me the heart was more like a bowl of blood or a fist than a valentine. Every beat it jumped as if startled. She never found mine, though she became my favorite fuck buddy, more buddy than fuck, or at least that's what I thought we were. She'd ride her scooter over to my place after work at Late Night Slice. She also worked at Late Night Slice and as a pedicab driver. I suppose she was my girlfriend, or if not, I'm not sure why not. My 20s were girls who were vaguely not my girlfriend. Blurry, occasional sex, high life, the Miller kind. I've never wanted one story, always many, and girls are the best way to experience multiple worlds. I love going to their apartments, meeting their dogs, examining their books. Courtney was crashing on the couch in an apartment with a pool table and full size trampoline. I wondered why she didn't sleep on the trampoline. Sex is adventures, meeting girls, getting drunker, kissing your way down a major thoroughfare, face on face. Fucking the Muse. Coffee in the morning, bourbon at night. Dead roses in the throats of empty bottles. These are the things that poets like. Caitlin, every girl I've ever known was Caitlin or Lauren, was the girl who most should have been my girlfriend and wasn't. I waited on her at the restaurant. Green tea, cucumber roll, seaweed on the outside. Her mouth was small. She left her number on the back of the check with a note that said, "You're hot." Only time that ever happened to me. I think she thought I was Edward Cullen. I text. First thing she says, she's a painter and poet, so I decide I'll fall in love. We agree to meet for bubble tea. I waited in a basement mall, bracing for her impending ugliness. I couldn't remember what she looked like. I thought I remembered her being hot. She arrived stunning, tall and blonde, legs built the old-fashioned way, long and longer. She told me she wanted to move to Tibet to be a monk. So I kissed her because I was young and under the influence of Salinger. I tried talking her out of liking Bukowski. She talked me in. We agreed to not like Leonard Cohen. But we were wrong. I gave her Hart Crane. She said she loved it. I'm not sure she read it. Her favorite poet was Lil' Kim. She knew the words to all the dirty raps. She'd do them when she'd drive me to work, and we'd make out in the car until my shift started. I don't know why she wasn't my girlfriend. She never stayed over. She had a shadowy past, maybe drugs, maybe blue hair, terminally suburban. She worked at Bob Evans. Retirees loved her. She was somewhere between granddaughter and sex object. I tried to convince her parents weren't her parents. Her parents were American parents, reclined, white sneakered, normcore before it was cool. She was only 19, I was 24, and I think she wasn't allowed out of the house for overnight stays. She listened to everything I said, which gets annoying after a while. The tattoo on her rib still bothers me. Notes to a past I knew nothing about. Where did it come from, and why didn't she just tell me? One night we couldn't open the wine, so we broke it against a tree. She's still the only person who's ever read my blog. My number one fan, the Muse. She never slept in my bed. She just ran to the bathroom, my cum in her mouth, hands stretched over her head in victory. I read that at Elizabeth Street Garden this summer and I censored it a lot. And I shouldn't have. So this is from one of the first Denim Skin readings. This is out front of Dorian Gray, I think on 4th Street. I took the train home. I think it skipped my stop. I went to 15th on the F in Park Slope by the Prospect Park, the corner. Is this gonna work? Yeah, okay. Olivia Saperstein. Well, I read this on my, maybe I'll skip this one. For crying out loud, splashing her vinyl blood across my receptive face. Barf. This flirtation unsustainable, a field of carbonation glittering upwards till it's out of breath. Just let me study your body with my body. Two pieces of hydrogen making an arch of light. When they come close, the spark leaps. See, this, I don't know if this would be considered sexist now or what. Walking dictionary. Mainly we sleep. The TV's always a blowhard. You want a sandwich? Bologna's in the fridge, help yourself. Chocolate milk and dill pickles. Dad's got a suicide pact with the world. 2012, they both died of his mind. The smartest armchair in the world. We threw phone books out the side door of a cargo van when I was the smartest kid in the grade, or so they said. Doing my homework in the coat closet 5 minutes before class. Head very wet from the shower. That was the beginning of me not caring, a trend I've kept up ever since. My brain grew in the dark, lips drawn into themselves. I wanted to write a memoir in the 7th grade called The Rise and Fall of the Walking Dictionary. It was to be the story of my intellectual development as one of the gifted. Sewage belting, an old dresser sunk in the toxic lagoon behind the electric plant. We explored the dead forest, leftover nature, with fat kid David Evans, who explained sex to us. Hiding in a bush beneath a loading dock, he huffed a pretend orgasm into the pinking scenery. Said he fucked his last girlfriend for 3 hours. He was 11. Being a kid is messed up. Kids need ritual sacrifice around a debased tire full of leaves. Kids need to be buried alive in their tree houses when they fill the grove with wires and cement. Kids need lashing fireworks to sting their wrists with memory. That's true. When I was in 7th grade, I wanted to write a memoir. Why not? I should have. I wanted to write my autobiography, but of course I thought I had these great notebooks, these hardcover notebooks that my mom brought home from work or something. But I thought, oh, I can't write my memoir. I'm only in 7th grade. I'm only 12. But I wanted to write about being the walking dictionary. I should have. I should have written it. You know, any idea you have, you should just do. You should not even worry. People try too much to fit into kind of the constrained genre requirements and the typical shit. And it's like, if you have an idea, just do it. I shouldn't have even worried about, oh, is this, can I do this? Is this a, it's what I wanted to do. So, I mean, when I call this my sex book, it's obviously facetious and a joke. There's a lot in it that's, like, not about sex. And even the sex poems, like, have integrity and validity. Like, I don't know, going back over this stuff, it's like I could do a pretty good reading from all this stuff, you know. I'm thinking about, okay, so January 29th I'm hosting this event and it's like poem that changed your life. And so I've been thinking about like fuck. I mean, first of all, what's the poem that I wrote that changed my life? And what's the poem that I read that I changed my life? Once again, I think it's like it's hard to pick one because you have these kind of fulcrum moments. There are certain poems. There's been multiple poems that have changed my life, or maybe they just changed my poetics. Which one changed my life? I don't know. I'm not sure what the one poem that like changed my fucking life was. Uh you know, as fucking corny as it is, it might be, if you want to put it that way, it might be the fucking James Wright poem, You Must Change Your Life. Or the Rilke poem, You Must Change Your Life, maybe. I don't know. What's the poem that changed my life? Like I said, I think there's multiple that are sort of fulcrums. It's hard to pick. Um, you know, like there's Frank O'Hara stuff that I would definitely say changed my life. It might have to be Frank O'Hara actually, because Frank O'Hara probably was the example that's of somebody that just said, okay, here's how you live the poem, you know, and here's how you make it super personal and like super casual and like toss it off and I was looking at James Schuyler's poems the other day. In a certain way, I might have to pick a James Schuyler poem because I got his book shortly after I moved to New York, and it really did change the way I wrote, the way I thought about poetry. I was reading his poem about Wystan Auden, the W.H. Auden poem. I thought, nah, maybe I'll do that one. That's kind of an interesting. I mean, not that it's some super profound, you know, it's not like, you know, I'd probably pick like the morning of the poem. Maybe that was maybe the one that like changed my life more than anything, because it made me realize that like you can make poetry out of just like your mind activity, but do it with style, and it's got all that New York stuff kind of layered into it. But it's long, you know what I mean. It would be hard to, maybe I can just read an excerpt from it. That I would say probably changed my life. I didn't read Schuyler when I was in Columbus. You know, I read Frank O'Hara, that poem about, you know, his poems on St. Mark's Place. I would say that changed my life. Hart Crane changed my life. You know, definitely some of his stuff I could pick. That stuff that really, I mean, to be honest, the Lorca poem, Beware and Beware and Beware, that might be the one actually. Uh, Nocturne, Brooklyn Bridge Nocturne, that might be the one poem that like life is not a dream, right? That's something I refer to over and over again. That's kind of like the catalyst and the kind of spur, you know. But what is the poem that I've written that changed my life? I don't know. In a certain way, I might say that Dwayne Reed poem, because that was really the first like skinny poem that I wrote that was like political, first person in New York. I don't know. It was a little different than what I had been writing before. War and Peace was sort of, I don't know if that was before or after, but it was sort of going that direction. Um, Mr. President. I love my suspicious America. It's just for men lawn care. It's Gestapo tactics. It's, you know, like, okay, some of these poems you might say changed my life. To be honest, the poem that changed my life, probably more than anything, was the Pickup Artist poem. Because that was the one that I read at the first readings I ever really did that I was like booked on, and it just blew the room apart. Those are still the best readings I've ever done. It was like beginner's luck. You didn't know what you were capable of. and I just blew the roof off the place. So that poem, to be honest, is the one that sort of changed my life. But I would not read it at this because it's all about picking up chicks and stuff. um, Once again, this is a thing that there's like multiple things you could say. Um, the whole Alice in the Cities book, I would say, changed my life in a way because it changed my whole technique. It changed the way I was making things, publishing things. Uh, that was one of the first hardcover books. That was after Easy Paradise. It was right after I put out the Easy Paradise book. So I put out the Alice in the Cities book as sort of another pocket book to just test it and see what it was like. So I don't know. It's like there's a number of ways you could answer that. Vigil poem was very important. The sun is singing to a great reef of clouds. That changed my life. That was the first poem I ever wrote that felt like, okay, this is kind of a good poem. This is like kind of, it felt good. It felt like, okay, this got impact. And it's kind of mysterious in a way that I didn't understand. I was walking through Goodale Park at night, and I got these lines about I go walking with the trees at night. And I don't know where they came from. I was just like, that's kind of interesting. There's John Porcellino. He's like the King Cat comics. These are basically the same thing. Romer, I serve society by taking it easy rather than working. So this Mr. President poem, a lot of the stuff that was published by Denim Skin, you could say changed my life, but I wouldn't necessarily want to read that at this thing. Like this Mr. President poem, I don't really read anymore. I read it right before the election at Poetry Project, and even then it was sort of like an old poem that I was sort of bringing back. But over the years, you have certain things that survive. You have certain things that you're like, okay, this is part of the corpus, Mr. President is a significant poem. It's different than what I've been doing the last couple years in certain ways. A lot of this stuff is. There has definitely been a profound stylistic change over the past 6 years since any of these poems. Really, my work has changed a lot. So this book is really one of the examples I have of like finished poems that are more like stuff that traditionally gets published. Let me read this myself included poem because it's the twin. A lot of times you find this with songs and poems is you'll get like two of them at once that are kind of similar. They're almost like brother and sister or something. Songs, a lot of times that happens. But Tinder and myself included were like delivered at the same time and were kind of counterpart poems. They're about hooking up, but they're different. They are different. So this is myself included. Fucked up, entrained on the paramount inconsequentials, tiny fragments of pussy, downloading the Holy Grail illegally, used potato chips. I've obtained the heart-shaped sunglasses she tried on in the Halloween store. Red lenses like lollipops. Let me change the video. Oh, there's Jake. Yeah, let me change the video. Hold on. What else we have going on here? Maybe something a little more. Yeah, let me throw something a little more contemporary on. I've obtained the heart-shaped sunglasses she tried on in the Halloween store. Red lenses like lollipops for the shrine of my bottom left dresser drawer. She craved everything I never wanted to be. Choked me, she said. I did. She asked. It was fine. It was whatever. Half-assed lechery. I could never enjoy the fuck. It was not my answer, much as I went there looking for completion. We fucked on the floor on an uninflated air mattress, the rug thatched with the hair of one-shot lovers, ricocheted nail clippings. She asked me to take my finger out of her. Her limbs unfolded went on too long for my turtle shell room. Like trying to fuck Alice in Wonderland after she's wearing a house. I climbed her into the bed. Turkish girls have the tightest pussies, a friend of a friend told me. Liner notes to you, my most beautiful lover. No privacy left, I've incorporated. I loved you deeply for 5 seconds. I loved you deeply as 5 seconds would allow. I bought you a $9 glass of wine, my budget for the day. The bartender angry I'm not ordering more. I watched you being in love with me. I have no subject, I have no friend. I have very minimal porn intake, 3 to 4 nights a week only. Day dawns on my tranquil bowels, this mileage of arterial netting. Nerve endings scorched out like lights in a Christmas strand. Oh, you were chewed on by the cat again. I loved our trip to the grocery store. I learned so much about produce. The grapes, how they wash their hair. The daffy red brains of lettuce. I was a chauffeur at the lectern of a steering wheel, driving you around on your white horse, buckling steed, dream catcher hung from its neck. It's all sex to me, except sex, which is more like some aerobic activity that makes you leak and bend in ways you don't usually. I'm sorry if you have to have sex with me. If I was a woman, I would never have sex with a grown adult man. Man handed the bullets of conception and told to shoot everything he sees. I sleep in half. This is the apartment where I wrote the Midtown Epiphany poem. That's where I recorded it, in that apartment. As day rises up my window, I'm a thin half and long with the sun. A carton of Neapolitan ice cream melting into morning, afternoon, night. A line break is almost melodic, like changing chords, then changing back. I listen to a lot of good advice. Still don't know how to not lose everything. I like it when it's raining. Spent the last 2 years on drugs and wanted to go further into drugs. It's hard to change without wanting to get revenge. It's hard to change without changing. All these days hanging off me, don't know what to do with them. 6:15 approaches gently. I take a cab there, rescheduling the unknown. I don't observe anything but the sound of sound. It's not meaning. I love it when the night opens its mouth to sing lightly its stars, a sequence of curves. Don't you think it's incredible when I hold the night is shaped like you? This is all from the Sarah era. I guess I haven't really gone into that. I should be reading the acid poems if we're watching this stuff, but Mr. President. So this is right before all of this shit. This is like 2015, I think I wrote this. This may have been 2014, 15. 15, I guess. This was like around the time of Holy Smokes and Numerical American and shit like that. Satire. I wanted to have a big canvas. This is like a big poem, like America. This poem probably comes out of like driving across the country and kind of having, knowledge of the whole The form of the poem feels like driving across the country in a way. The way it's like big and kind of broad shouldered, kind of opens up, uses the whole page, there's space in it. It kind of references a lot of the landscape. So, Mr. President. I read this at the Poetry Project the night before Trump got elected at the open mic. Mr. President. And I said it's the last time we're going to say this because Hillary's going to be the president. We're going to have a Mrs. President or a Madam President or whatever. And I was wrong. Mr. President. It's kind of a funny American thing, Mr. President. It's not like your Royal Highness. Mr. Kind of cuts him down to size in a way. Makes him one of us. It's patriarchal, though, and it is gendered as fuck. Mr. President. The chronology, mixing the chronologies is good. It's all out of order, but this is how memory is. These memories surface when they surface, when it's appropriate, I love my suspicious America. It's just for men long care. It's Gestapo tactics. It's frequent Saturday nights. It's silent ambulances. It's revolutionary boredom. There's so much to satirize. Just pick anything and put a frame around it. Or you can love it. Any way you want it, you can have it any way. For what it means, or was meant to mean, for what it was, or what it's become. I was a witness 26 years, concerned citizen of nowhere, roaming homeward ever after, roaming homeward ever after. Roaring greyhound, vanished thumb, faded boot print. Traumatic memories suffice, dead noble Indians war whooping across the great plains of syndication. I look away, I look back. I'm in New York, which is what America's supposed to be and isn't. Crannied opportunity, woven basket of language. Thomas Jefferson banging Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah Winfrey winning an Academy Award, and Maury Povich hosting the ceremony, telling Jefferson he is not the father. And Jefferson pumps his fist in a tuxedo he designed himself. A group of Mount Vernon slaves sells George Washington his teeth. A false set made of real ones they've collected from their own mouths. He puts them in his mouth and holds a press conference in the White House Rose Garden, where he never lived. He is bled by his barber on national TV. He is bled on CNN for all his enemies to see. The ruby syphilitic oozing like a tree running maple syrup. Finest display of patriotism I've seen. I remember sitting and remembering things. The pleasure of donning the past like moss. One needs to romanticize the place they live, the processes they endure. To go into the elfin workshop of memory and refashion the present into the small toy of yesterday. Everything's a lie, so lie to yourself, said the motivational tape. Trust yourself beyond all others, said the tattoo up Cassandra's one perfect leg. It was dangerous advice to follow, but made all the difference. For now, I throw with ease the gloried peal of American lightning. Burger King chicken fries, 99 cents. The thunder rolls like Garth Brooks sang, throngs thrumming into Sturgis, South Dakota, to see Jay Leno and Diamond Dallas Page fight Hollywood Hogan and Carl Malone for the tag team championships of the world. I never thought I was dumb till I learned I was American and stuck that way. But I found the little part of America that I like. I found the little part of America that's just for me. It's this broke down, abandoned house in Brooklyn where the tangled hair of delinquent grass is Walt Whitman's still flowering beard. And the Mohawks walk the sky, building the high steel of office towers. So that's a good place, I suppose. That's the poems from 2014 to 2018. That's just a little sampler. We got a little speed chess. We got a little October. We got a little bicycle day. We got a little this, a little that. Diary of an outtake. Did I read "You Are Trapped Inside the Tight Room of Your Shirt"? I don't think I did. Did I read this? I don't think I did. Should I do it real quick? That one was a good one to end on, but there's still good stuff in here. I'm going to be doing readings. Yeah, I'll be doing more readings from the past works. We're going through all the incarnations. This is an exercise in aging, in showing the years, showing the eras, showing growth. This is a Dwanell film, really. So it's like that Antoine Dwanell picture where it's like they did one for every movie where it's like here's the one of him where he's 30 and it's a picture of him with and here's him at Love at 20 and there's the chalk drawing of him at 14 from 400 Blows in the very back. That's kind of what this is, where it's like you're seeing me now, 2023, where I sort of look like I did in 2015. I got the hair but then you're seeing this guy. This is 2018 me. This is when I got Easy Paradise. This is when the delivery came with the books in the mail. This is me opening the box. A recurring thing on my show is box opening videos, me getting books. I guess it's just, lack of new ideas, but, um, you know, sh- I also like the idea of having a floating chronology, using a bibliomancy to discern which works to read, rather than going about it through some kind of like prescribed. This has been probably about 3 hours, I'd say, in total. It's unfortunate that it's been all these separate videos, but mixing and matching the eras, mixing and matching the different pieces from different books, from different. I can tell when they're from. It's weird how poetry reveals that. I mean, maybe that's just art in general, but you can see exactly where you were smart or developed than they're ever going to be. There's something about a human being that's always there. You definitely learn more and experience more, but like a kid has equal presence and life force and in certain way insight and intelligence to anybody, right? Even though they might not have as much experience in age, there's something about your talent that kind of is always, if you have talent, like you can look at my writing back to whenever, and there's going to be things in it that are like going to have whatever strength I have now. It might not have developed formally and traveled through like its wisdom journey or something and like gotten to that point yet, but I think that's part of what's exciting is tracking the development. The Beatles, right? Or the Beatles. I want to do a live stream about the Beatles because like they're just something that's sort of omnipresent. Or like in my life, it's something I'm always thinking about, or it's always there. YouTube is always suggesting it, and it was sort of like probably, you know, one of the earlier artists where like you can kind of they're like a kit or like they're like a how-to. The most basic way. Here's how you like become like fully realized artists, ingenious kind of masterpiece. You know, like the Beatles, it's like they kind of show you how they, part of what their strength was because there was four of them, they could cover up each other's faults with by stepping in. You know, they knew how to step in, and if one of them, you know, was not filling in, one of the other ones would step up. And they take a lot of incomplete ideas and flesh them out through harmonies and other types of things that, like, I don't know, they're interesting examples of, like, how to put things together, you know, how they put the White Album together versus how they put together, you know, Abbey Road with the side 2 thing. It's like, you can kind of see how they take concepts and, like, bring them to conclusion, you know. So it's like they are a model for how to do things. My books are sort of like that. They're almost like the different albums. There's some of them are concepts, like the 1 year book. That's like a concept album. I like the White Album a lot because it kind of uses everything, you know. It's almost like a notebook piece. It's there's certain things about it that are like demo quality. So this was an episode I put together in spring 2018. This is basically when the show trailed off, right when I won the award. I wasn't able to capitalize on that attention at all because I wasn't able to work on the show. I got veered into music and I just didn't have time or space to get on it. My computer broke. And so, but this is more like the more contemporary episode. This was literally the first one I did that was like the ones that I do now, where it's like, I literally just took all the clips and put them into a fucking timeline. I edited it so it flowed, but like there's no talking head, there's no narrator. It's literally just like a movie of what the fuck happened. Which I felt like, as an artist, I felt I can't do this because I'm not intervening enough. I'm not explaining what's happening. It's literally just like my iPhone camera roll, and I edited it slightly. But it plays nicely, and, you know, the ones that I've done recently are more or less, I do one every week. This is, you know, the guy at the party was sort of condescendingly saying, you put one of those out every week? Hey, there are some people that vlog every day. The new video, so I got a new video, I just finished it today, it's about an hour. It's Twin Peaks. It covers the last week. I don't know. I think that's one of the interesting things about doing this over time, and it's sort of something I learned from poetry, is like it can be all different sizes, and it can take on different life forms as it goes. You know, the early episodes are edited, they're hosted, they're, you know, they're short. The newer episodes are these long, kind of just like environmental, flowing, kind of organic, just like fly on the wall almost. And it's like, but if you watch the whole thing, you're going to see those changes. You're going to see those. It's like Ashbery, right? Flowchart is a whole fucking book. He's got poems of all different sizes. He's got The Skaters. He's got Europe. He's got Rivers and Mountains. It's sort of about just finding the form for the thing. You know, in the Myself Included book and the poems that I've been reading in this broadcast, they are more typical. You know, at that, it was before I'd really gone nuts and been liberated with permission by writers like Burnett Mayer. Burnett Mayer, that poems that changed my life. I mean, you want to talk about what would be the one? Probably something from Works and Days or something. Those were the earliest kind of like chronological notebook pieces that I really read, that I was like, not Joanne Kiger. Joanne Kiger was something I got into later, but if you read Poetry State Forest and Works and Days, those were the earliest ones where I was like, but I was already grouping thing by calendar in a notebook way through the show. You know, Bernadette Mayer wasn't something I read. This is Dead Pete Society. This is 2018. This is me reading at fucking Dead Pete Society. That's how long I've been going. It's weird how this came back into my life. Not that anybody's interested, but I wonder if at some point people will ever get interested to the point, or if it just requires too much attention. And like, would your average person watch a show and be able to tell, like, oh, what the fuck is this? And then they'll see the more recent episodes, see me read it. Like, literally, the last episode I put out, I'm reading at Dead Pete's. I'm reading that Chelsea Girls poem. In one of the videos, Ashley's introducing me, and she says something about the New York school. Oh, there we go. This was me at my kind of like flabbiest, grossest. And somebody in the audience goes, oh, he's in the New York school, or something like that. These are gluten-free donuts that I used to get at Columbia, at the West Side Market up there, whatever the fuck it is. There's that corner market. They had these gluten-free, dairy-free donuts that were so fucking good, but they destroyed my teeth. God, look how ugly that beard is. It's terrible. What the fuck was I doing? When you get into relationships, sometimes you just want to get out of it so bad that you try to make yourself as unattractive as possible, thinking the other person is just going to let go. It was toxic. I should have enjoyed it more. It was nice. It was nice. I had a good time. I liked my relationship. Here we are. Is this at... Oh, this is Williamsburg or whatever. It sucked. We lived 20 minutes from the train. I hated... It was... I don't know. Walking through that neighborhood wasn't that bad. But once you get on the other side of McGinnis Boulevard, that's when it sucked. So, yeah, myself included. Look, I'm going to do a re-edit. I'm going to add some more stuff. I got to find that poem about Frank Talk's mistakes. That's a good one. That should be in the book. There's a few things that should be in the book that aren't. And maybe some things I should take out. There's a lot of these little poems that are like postcard poems that I wrote. They're in the section, I think it's called New Poems in the book. Yeah. And they kind of take up like a whole fucking page, and they're very... This is Alice Notley. This is May 2018 at the Allen Ginsberg fucking thing. Let me read one of these real fast. Don't dare the gamut. Park dims in wet and sleep, enhancing the wet green. Riding a mountain to pizza, knockdown's red prospect. And now the dark sang goodbye through its yellow telephone. I wrote that in Williamsburg. That was like very much around this time, I think. Around this time is the poems from like the Bicycle Day section. And all these ones with like the slashes in them and shit. Rental weeks. Rewinding the sky, the video partly cloudy. I flicked on the daisies and it rained all night. Local news. Forget-me-nots die this morning as more details emerge. Oh, there's Moondog. The greatest cat in the universe. At the Long Branch. Sin, Ohio 1. Mall bisects all loving. Grinding copies unarmed. Psych Facebook lopside grade. These are all the same but fewer. Pull me haters off the scroll wheel, inspecting the long game. Adding various friends. Giving contestants out a bit. Scoring coffee and roasting. Crop could culminate city. Nearing fatality. He wondered where his hair would be. Then the style adjusted itself, quickly changed. That last shot kind of encompasses my relationship in a way. That was the feeling. Having the cat, having my girlfriend, the family kind of like... That feels good, you know? It's not necessarily who I thought. You know, I was trying to be like a father. That's what, like, the beard, all of that, you know. I was trying to be Ted. I was trying to be this big father guy laying in bed smoking. My back hurts. This is me at videology. There's my dad in his ping hat. I'm doing. Ross had this great series with Angel where they invited me a couple times. That one I was talking about a trip to Florida I had taken. So it was sort of like stand up. That was like way before I did stand up. This is the Easy Paradise launch at Spoonbill Sugartown in 2018 in on Montrose, Spoonbill Montrose. So there the fucking magazines are. 2018. That was 5 years ago at this point. I haven't put out the second issue yet. The open mic is the first Easy Paradise thing I've really done since 2020. That's like been kind of a hit, I guess. There's Olivia. There's Todd Colby. It's a good crowd, really. I mean, Chris Roberts. It's a beautiful place to do a reading. At that time, I mean, a lot of the Poetry Project people were doing stuff there. Stacy Samazik, I think, had her book launch there. So to be able to read there, I mean, for poets, it's like, what could be a more, I mean, it's a pretty elegant, like, I don't know, it makes you feel cool. And they have great selection. I mean, Jonas really knows his stuff. He was super nice. I vibe with him, but hardcore. So, there I am. I mean, what the hell? The Trump era, it's just like I said, it was a hysterical time. It was a political time. I wanted to be Che Guevara, I guess. I don't know. It just felt like that was to just make yourself. My image has always been kind of a place of contention and a battleground for me. Doing acting stuff, trying to market the way that you look. This one. I don't know what this is. I guess it's from the same time. Like, trying to market the way you look. I never really succeeded getting cast in TV commercials and stuff. So I suppose I got frustrated by it. My health deteriorated. That was another reason why I stopped sort of. I used to wear contact lenses every day, and I just stopped being able to afford it. Basically, I can buy glasses for $20, and like that takes care of my eyes for like the next 4 years or whatever. Contact lenses, I just haven't bought any in years because I don't have the money. I'd like to wear them, but also, I've especially over the last decade or so, like I've been kind of trying to subvert maybe the idea. I don't, people have things that they value you for, and for me, it's like the way I look is something people are always talking about. And so, in a certain way, you're trying to subvert that. You don't want people to just think you're like a pretty face or whatever. And so, I mean, particularly during Trump era, it was just like, I don't know. It was just about pure laziness. How do we completely let ourselves go? I guess I wanted to be one of the Beach Boys. Right before I dated Sarah, I was obsessed with the Beach Boys. I was listening to the Smile album like every day. I was listening to it over and over and over again. All the Beach Boys shit. Listening to all of it. And Brian Wilson is a fucking genius, and the Beach Boys are fucking the greatest American band. But I was listening to California Girls all the time, right? I played California Girls on my guitar constantly, and then Sarah, she's from California, It's like I manifested it. And here we are. I'm holding forth about politics. She's filming me. It's a good shot. She's in the mirror. There's the Moondog. I'm wearing my Hendrix shirt. We were trying to live like it was the 60s. We lived like beatniks. We lived like hippies. She's from the Bay Area, so she was a radical. She was into all kind of like, she had a lot of radical political books, and so for the Trump era, it felt like this is a good person to like fight with, and she's strong, she's passionate, she's a powerful person, and at the time it was hard. It was hard for everybody that era, right? But looking back at the footage and stuff, I re-edited a lot of this. This is from that time. This episode is like 40 minutes long or something of me just talking about politics. Because it felt like this was what was this was like probably the earlier. Well, I was doing talk stuff way before this, but like I put out some episodes during this time where I filmed myself on camera for like 40 minutes or whatever talking. So those were early episodes where I did like live stream type stuff. I don't know if YouTube had a live stream at that point, or I'm sure it did, but I didn't live stream on YouTube that I'm aware of. I didn't start to do that until the pandemic, I don't think, really. Um, I would record myself on photo booth doing this, basically, talking for like hours at a time. Um, but I don't know. It just felt like this was the way to be as politically radical as we could be. Just talk to these things immediately. Film it, put it on YouTube, try to get it out, try to get people to see it. It was a more direct, my October book that I read from a little bit. I didn't read that much of it, but it's a good piece. It's like a book length poem using the sort of speed chess method where I like literally just transcribed a notebook from October 2017. And I only put the stuff that worked in the way it looks on the page is kind of how, it was. And, it felt imperative. The Trump thing gave you reason to do these things. To like, okay, Bernadette Mayer had this book called Utopia, which she wrote, I think, in the 80s, the early 80s, when she was director of the Poetry Project. And it was the beginning of the Reagan era. And it's sort of like Bernadette Mayer's, like, political. It's like common sense. It's overtly like the idea of a utopia being almost like a poem almost. It's like, here's your hypothetical, like, ideal, functional heaven society or whatever. And it's almost like a political criticism. It's almost like a satire because you're saying it's not like this. It should be. And here's your, you know. And so October was sort of my political treatise. There were a number of things. My book, Taking It to the Streets, which is sort of, Jabril requested a poem from Take It to the Streets. I read it at the open mic, whenever that was, the 9th or whenever. And he wanted to hear 100 Things You Could Do Right Now, which is a list poem sort of in the manner of like the Tully Kupferberg. He has a number of list poems, 1001, whatever the fuck it is. And so, 100 Things You Can Do Right. My book, Taking It to the Streets, was a more, as the Trump era went on, things got more and more serious. October, that was 2017, it was still like this philosophical, how do we want to do it, It was before, like, stuff really sank in and, like, the changes really started to, like, take effect. And so Taking It to the Streets is a much different book. It's much more immediate. It's much more punk. It's much more direct. I'm like literally just saying protest. October is more, it's almost like a prose poem diary or something. I'm going to keep going until the fucking thing cuts me off, I think. I could do, I don't know. I don't necessarily want to, like, visit the stuff with my ex too goddamn much. But I do have videos for the Placid Western book. See, there my beard's starting to look a little better. My hair and my beard kind of look cool there. But it's a different thing for me. My strength is, like, my facial structure, my chin. We lived in this house in Ridgewood, this apartment building, And I had this huge beard and hair. And when I cut my beard, the landlady, she used to always sit on the stoop, and she went, "Wow, you're very handsome." And she went to Sarah, she went, "You should watch out. Like, this guy's good looking." And Sarah got really mad about it. She thought, how dare this lady fucking say this to me? But, having a big beard hides my. I don't need a big beard. Big beards are for guys with jowls and shit so they can hide that stuff. I was reading this article about John Larroquette, the Night Court remake, the great clown John Larroquette. And he's got this beard, and it's like, what the fuck? He's old. He's like 75. A lot of the people from Night Court are dead. Rest in peace. Night Court's a great show, but it's kind of weird that they're bringing it back. And he's got this beard, and it's like, what the fuck is this? And should I put this over here, or? These are not the coolest books on the table, I remember thinking. It's like, it's just to hide his, I don't know. Not to be judgmental or anything, or fat shame anybody. This is a New York episode from 2018, so I just kind of wanted to roll it and just see. We went to see Speed Levitch. This is on Sarah. I got her the tickets for her birthday. She acted like I never got her anything, but I did buy us tickets to see Speed. It was terrible. He should have just talked, but he did this weird, like, rehearsed thing. It was, like, kind of fucking horrible. Here's voting. We were voting. Once again, it's political. Everything was super political. Not that it isn't now, but it was supercharged. I mean, that drove a lot of the artistic decisions for what I was doing. The reason why my work became these pamphlets and this kind of calendar thing and this kind of like, just like epiphanic kind of moment, thought clouds, but also disjointed and kind of like language poetry and kind of gibberish. That stuff I didn't really do that much before. But over the last few years, it's become kind of a prime mode for me. And I think the Trump era just made everything seem so crazy. That's why Wavetable happened. And, System Lord is still kind of like doing that, but it's like, it was a hysterical, like, gory. It just felt like there were just like disembodied, everything was just being ripped to pieces, And so it felt like the sound had to be destroyed, the masculinity of the sound, the rock and roll thing. The society in a lot of ways did just like blow up and tear itself apart during the Trump era. And so having the footage and stuff, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. At the time, it's almost like you were just hiding your head and trying to live through it or something. So now looking back on it, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of, I mean, not the political thing, but just like our lives. We're kind of, here we are walking around Brooklyn, this is Cobble Hill or whatever. This is one of the nicest blocks in New York, right by this park. Books on the sidewalk, that's something you see more in Brooklyn than in Manhattan. You don't see too many books on the sidewalk out there. But in Brooklyn, there's always good books. The intellectual life of the city has all moved out there, I guess. Well, should I keep going? I don't think the thing is going to stop. It stopped the first 2 fucking times, but it looks like it's going to keep going. I don't know what time it is, but it's getting late. This was my broadcast. Thank you for watching. I think it's been kind of a cool part of the retrospective, You're getting, like, bits and pieces of each. So now when I do my readings, I'll know which poems to read from myself included, and maybe I can read some from my sex book. There's Andrea on System Lord. You know, this is 2018, so this is 4 years before System Lord. There's Luke and Andrea. This was, they still lived in Providence at this point. Bennett moved to Portland. Sarah's in LA. But, it was a productive time in a weird way. With Sarah, I actually was able to kind of focus. I wasn't necessarily able to just like write and read studiously all the time. And so I had to adapt. That's another reason why I started writing these journal pieces, because I did not have time to sit down and like just like write for hours and hours. It was like I was with her constantly. So I write down things she said. I just had to write down shit as it happened, rather than, oh, I need 4 hours or 8 hours or whatever to write my book, leave me alone. That wasn't going to happen. We were together all the time. So, um, uh, this Lyft driver played the flute. Um, but life goes on, so things continue to change. I don't know. These changes happened organically. They were not like necessarily, and they felt right. They felt like the best thing to do artistically. It wasn't like, oh, that was a good drawing. It wasn't like, I was drawing a lot back then. It wasn't like contrived necessarily. Like the way I looked and stuff, I don't know. I was trying to look like, I looked like Manson, I guess, but I was trying to look like, it was like a Ted Berrigan. I thought those glasses were like movie director glasses. I thought they were fancy. They seemed like they hyper intensified like my eyes. How old am I here? I'm 33. This was my Jesus year. There I am, getting crucified. There's my books. I've been dragging these fucking things around, the Wes Anderson collection. I don't think I've looked at that book in 6 or 7 years. More than that, almost a decade. I probably haven't looked at that book in 8 years. And yet I still carry it around. It's like 20 pounds. How long do I want to go? Maybe I'll go 90 minutes. Let's see, I did about 3:45, so that's like an hour 35, so that's 2:20. Oh god, I've been almost 4 hours. That's way too long. Just live streaming my life away. Nobody's watching. It's pathetic. My whole audience left. Zlad asked me some interesting stuff yesterday. He's like, do you like the attention from all these people, namely, you know who? Do you think that do you think people watching your live stream, does that make you think that it's working? The implication being it's not working. And so are watching my live stream just because it's like a flirtation or a way to, it's like a phone call basically. I mean, literally nobody watches it. Maybe one or two people watch, but part of the reason I'm doing this is it's for the archive, the retrospective, the artistic retrospective. I do want to do stuff in person, but getting this stuff down that I've been doing, these last two readings where I've done a little bit of, I'll probably do more New York. I don't know. Maybe I'll do some readings from my other chapbooks too. Maybe I'll do some readings from all of like my printed chapbooks. Maybe that's what I'll do like for another live stream. I mean, I'd like to do next week during the actual festival. This is sort of just like preliminary. I'm having a reading here this weekend, and tomorrow's System Lord practice. Monday's the open mic. I'm having a party on my birthday. Uh, there's wavetable, me rolling around the ground. Um, but I'd like to have little audiences here while I read this stuff. Could I have had an audience tonight while I did this? I don't know. Maybe I could have had a few people over. But it's also nice to do it this way and just kind of get it down. The festival is multi-site. It's online. It's on live streams. It's stand-up comedy. I got to do some stand-up. It's the festival. Not that that's any different. My life is, once again, it's a never-ending festival. But I would like to do a System Lord. I'd like to do a talk piece. I'd like to do maybe some music stuff, some traditional music stuff. So, I've kind of covered what I'd like to cover with the live streams, but I did want to this is a nice way to kind of softly start the festival. So I read from my New York diaries, I've read from my older works. I've got it in the record, so anybody who wants to watch it can come back and watch it. Then I can do the IRL events next week and film all that stuff, starting with the reading this weekend. So I've got that. I've got the KGB. I've got next Friday. So, I just wanted to be in my own space today and kind of just I think the projections are a cool visual. And, it'd be nice to get a little audience for this, but doing it online in a way that's kind of permanent and has reach. I mean, it's raining tonight, so it felt like maybe some people would watch. I don't know. I guess not, but maybe they'll watch later. Oh, God, 82 minutes. It's not going to shut off. Why did it shut off earlier? That pisses me off. Is there anything else I need to cover? Thank you for watching. Follow my Twitter. Maybe I'll do some Instagram live shit. We got big things in the works for gonna start some new shows. I'm finally gonna start getting paid. So it's things are starting to move. Hopefully people will start to trying to feed people into the Scenes from a Life page. Hopefully they'll start to watch this stuff. Hopefully they will start to watch the videos, and that will catch on. Okay, now somebody started watching. That's the idea. I don't want to just be live streaming to nobody forever. I think it's a good show. I think it's entertaining. I think I comment on a lot of stuff in interesting ways that nobody else is saying. If you're a fan of Bill Maher, you should watch my fucking live stream, because if you watch Club Random or whatever the fuck it is, they should take, a small percentage of the people who are watching Club Random and funnel them into my live stream. Just do me a favor. It's pretty arbitrary. The fucking algorithm just funnels people and, shoves people into certain things that it wants them to watch. Why not my stuff, Will there ever come a day where people just become, obsessed with my videos and just, watch all of them, and they're like, oh, my God, there's the Cherry Lane Theater. That's in, that shows back up in videos in 2022. This is from 2018. And that, is that ever, I don't know. Theoretically, if you have hundreds of thousands of people watching what you're doing, it's like they might see it better than you see it. it's so much video, it's so many hours of footage that it's hard to like kind of manage what you're putting out. You forget about stuff maybe, or um, see, that's from the election 2016. All these places are out of business. There was this nice Cuban place, the guy's rolling cigars. It's still, there's nothing in there, I don't think, you know? I think my election episode is one of the best episodes. Not that people want to relive that, but like I think it really does capture the vibe and like the journey that people took, and my election coverage. Not that a lot of people watched. I don't know if these videos, I guess it's too late. These videos are 7 years old at this point, but like I've been told they are of their time and place, but I don't know. I think they have historical value, and the idea of being is it's like a TV show. It's just like Mad Men. It's like you should be able to watch it from the beginning, and like the story should carry you along. I think that's kind of what's nice about watching the footage is I think you can kind of infer the story just from seeing kind of the characters and the people move in and out. I don't necessarily need to come in and say, "Oh, okay, Sarah and I are dating and I moved in with her." It's like you see it happen by watching the episodes. And it's interesting how the life travels through all these different friend groups and lives and apartments and uh, reading the poems alongside is kind of interesting. I mean, that 2016 year especially was so emotional, and love kind of torture. A lot of those poems kind of came from that. No dining stalls. I'm so used to seeing Extra Virgin with that dining stall right there. I walk by it practically every day. It's kind of crazy to see this. There's St. Ambrose. I mean, it looks basically the same, but um, I gotta show, I'd like to screen some of these were episodes I put together at the time. A lot of the episodes that I put together last year from my relationship, the San Francisco episode, the Paris episode, the 2019 episode, which is 5 hours long. They're really big tapestries. And not that anybody would ever watch those, but I'd like to do screenings of them. In New York, there used to be all these fucking like marathon length. You'd hear about a play and you'd have to take some fucking boat to see it, and like it would last like 24 hours or 48 hours or something. And there were 7 intermissions and they'd serve you food and shit. New York used to just have all these marathons and crazy kind of like art installation pieces where you'd go to somebody's apartment or something and they had totally made it up to be some crazy set or something. And the more we can keep that kind of stuff alive, a lot of the arts organizations, even the ones that have a foothold and have sort of facilities and stuff, kind of are doing boring work that doesn't really have an edge or a rawness to it. So showing, you know, these videos as an installation in my apartment and doing sort of a talk piece and doing a reading, that's as close as I can get sort of right now to doing, or that's as, I don't know, that's how I want to display my work. It's something I've wanted to do since I moved in here. I'm only now doing it at the very end. So I'm kind of like, kicking my own ass about that. But, if I could have a life out in public where I screen my videos and sort of talk and read with them, that would be kind of a cool performance. Um, hosting the home movies, hosting. This is Greenwich Ave. I didn't really know what any of this was when we were walking along here. It was just the West Village. The West Village used to be the kind of place I would just come and be like, I don't know where anything goes. I'm just walking. It felt like in the original Zelda, they were talking about when they originally designed it, they wanted the cartridge to be able to randomly generate the dungeons differently every time. That's how the West Village felt to me. It felt like every time you went it, the streets were just totally different. Now I know where they go and stuff. I know exactly where everything is, but I used to, for fun, I used to just take the train to the West Village and just walk around, and I have no idea where I was going. It all just kind of like jumbles you around in a really amazing way, just based on kind of the organic design. But in any case, I think that's enough live streaming. Maybe somebody will watch this, maybe not. That's probably all I'm gonna do until maybe next week. But I just wanted to, like I said, I just wanted to get the arts festival rolling. These are little previews. These are little, a lot of this stuff I haven't read in a long time. I haven't read a lot of that stuff, from myself included, in a long time. The thing that got me reassessing that book is Ashley. Like, I've given a few people copies of it recently, just like because I have some, and like I do think these poems have some value now that I have distance on them. At the time, it just felt like I was struggling, and I wasn't really making anything that had any kind of, like, I don't know, hit depth of bottom or whatever. But now I'm looking at them like, oh, it's a pretty unique voice, I would say. It was interesting what I was doing. It was unique, and I should have been comfortable with that. But now that Ashley has this book, she likes it. She likes it a lot better, I think, than she likes my pamphlets, my calendar pieces, and my diary pieces, which are more kind of tossed off and first draft type things. A lot of the poems, in myself included, were kind of maybe not heavily revised, but they were slightly edited and changed and stuff. So it's written differently, and it's kind of more complete and more traditional in a way. The poems kind of are more earthbound. They're not just drug experiments. But I also think that's her taste. She likes Belle and Sebastian. She doesn't like, Cecil Taylor necessarily. So, I don't know. It's one of these things, like, you see this a lot with, like, it's like that joke in Stardust Memories about, we like your movies, especially the early funny ones. They like the early funny jokes. They don't like when you get, I think it's natural as you get older to move into, like, trying to experiment and avant-garde techniques, like Woody Allen made Zelig and all this kind of weird shit. But we like your early funny movies. I don't know. My poetry has become kind of, I don't know, sloppy or something. I don't know. Not sloppy, but more outlaw, more rebel, more disrobed of the rules, which I think is a product of my life. The last 6 years, especially, I've really moved further and further from any kind of, like, normal society type thing. I haven't had really a job in like 6 years. And so my poems have drifted further into kind of strangeness or lack of professional capability.